Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a light story about a waitress who set up her coworker. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Other hostess wants me to stay at host stand and not bus tables. I comply. I hosted at a previous restaurant for 2.5 years and pretty much know the ins and outs of the role of a host. I recently moved and just started hosting at a new restaurant. So I completed my training, though I will yield the iPad/rotation to whoever has been there the longest. So my coworker, let's call her Hannah, is in charge. And so while she tells me where to seat people and plays on her phone otherwise, I'm left to bus tables, seat, wipe, and reset tables, etc. The other hosts I've worked with usually split the work equally with me, but it's whatever. I don't mind doing it all to pass the time. Hannah gets a to-go order over the phone and puts it in. Now, typically you wait until the to-go customer arrives before grabbing it so that you can help out, do other host duties, but Hannah decides to go and wait in the kitchen for 20 minutes or so until her to-go is ready. Our dinner rush is just ending, so people are getting up, and I'm running around bussing tables while Hannah is in the kitchen waiting on that to-go. I literally have no tables besides the ones that need to be bussed, so I'm making sure no one is walking in and I go quickly to clean some off. When I brought some dirty dishes and cups to the kitchen, Hannah tells me not to bus tables and wait at the host stand to ensure every guest that comes in will be greeted. Yeah, I get that, but I need tables to seat them at, and if they aren't coming in, I'm going to do my job and bus those tables. But she insists in a more rude than usual tone that I need to stay up there and not bus tables. So I say okay and stand up the host stand. I play on my phone, text some friends, browse Facebook, the works. No one comes in. Meanwhile, so many tables are getting up and need to get bussed. My manager comes up and lets me know when Hannah gets back up there. I'm cut and free to leave. Literally 30-ish minutes from when she first left the host stand, Hannah comes back up with this tiny to-go order and realizes the restaurant is a mess. I let her know I'm cut and clocked out. I'm gone now. LOL. And our last story. When taking advantage of me has terrible consequences. Once upon a time, there was this HVAC subcontracting company who did small-scale projects for the local municipality. Enter me, an 18-year-old girl fresh out of high school looking for a job. I got hired at this place as an administrative assistant with no experience whatsoever. The person who interviewed me was this horrendous crap stain of a human being named Erica. She did not work for the company, she was just the owner's mistress. This becomes important later. This was to be the start of a very long and painful experience, but one that I got my revenge on in the most spectacular way possible. My boss was this very tall, very intimidated Ghanaian, West African, named Dave. He was huge, 6'7". His voice was deep, and he was quite an intimidating man. Despite this, he was very calm and mild-mannered and rarely ever raised his voice. He did all of this shady crap with a smile and a tip of the hat, like a true gentleman. He owned the company and considered himself to be successful, but he was by far the shadiest person I've ever worked for in my life. I didn't realize at the time that many of the things he would have me do were illegal, very illegal. Now, a very funny and ironic side note here is that both Dave and his disgusting pile of crap side piece Erica were very, very religious, as in, I have a master's degree in theology and will remind you every chance I get religious. Dave was married and had a wife and 3 kids back in Ghana, but had his little plaything Erica here in the States to keep him entertained. His wife was not aware of Erica's existence, and she did not consent to this arrangement. Now, one would assume that since Erica was the one who interviewed me, that she works at the company, right? Wrong. This bee had a very good job with the U.S. government and would regularly email me, read micromanage, from her .gov email address regarding my work back at the office. She was located in an entirely different state and would visit every few weeks to sleep with Dave and call it work. It was during one of these trips that she hired me to work there. Erica was a master at mental torture. She was nasty, rude, and would dial back all her evil ways when Dave was around, so he believed she was the perfect angel. She was well into her 50s and would regularly bully me, an 18-year-old girl. I lived 1.5 hours away by train from the office, and had to be in at 8 a.m. I was also in college, so I would go straight from the office at 4 p.m. to take classes until 10 p.m. She would call at 7:55 a.m. sporadically, and if I wasn't there yet, she would leave a message asking why I was late. She would always make snide remarks at me when I needed clarification on something like, "Do you speak English or do you just not get it?" Mind you, I was an 18-year-old given the job of an HR director. I was in charge of all 3 office operations: payroll, union benefits, insurance certificates, IRS forms, bank accounts, child support claims, unemployment claims, the works. He had one 18-year-old running his entire business. I'm a naturally very organized, punctual, and technologically savvy person, and they took full advantage of that. These are some of the super illegal, shady things he had me doing. Changing dates on insurance certificates to make them valid, even though they weren't, paying union workers off the books, falsifying payroll documents, using literally any method to avoid the IRS, such as opening new bank accounts, putting things in his wife's name, etc., falsifying approval signatures for projects, pacify vendors that he owed money to while sweet-talking them into sending us more equipment without paying, and so many other things I can't think of at the moment. He never gave me the context of what was going on when giving me these random assignments. It was only until later that I started to put 2 and 2 together and figure out that most of what he was doing was shady. I worked at this place a total of 3 years and regularly had mental breakdowns in the office because of the sheer amount of work, bullying, and pressure from Erica and Dave. I'm talking ugly crying while doing my work because I didn't have time to just cry. Anyone in their right mind would have quit, but I was in college and got paid under the table, which kept me on my health insurance and able to pay for my textbooks and schooling with no debt. I went to a cheap city school, so I didn't have to take out loans, and not going into debt was more important than anything in the world to me. I would have slaved for as long as it took as far as I was concerned. Side note, during this time I hired a lovely young woman named Lily to help me make copies and answer the phone while I ran the entire effing company. She was a student and around my age and had great work ethic. Erica would bully her too, so we had a great friendship and a mutual burning hatred for this creature that calls herself Erica. She helps me exact my revenge on these cretins later by giving me documents, information, whatever I need, since she was still logged into the company's email long after she left. Now, I have stories for days about the various effed up things they did to Dave's various co-contractors, his employees, and myself included. But the story is already long enough, so I'll tell you about the time Dave told me to take a vacation. You look stressed. He sent me on vacation with 2 weeks' pay and said a lot of pleasantries about how hard I worked for him, how he couldn't run his business without me, yada yada. It was all lip service because when I returned the Monday after my 2-week vacation, I see some guy sitting at my desk using my computer. Of course, I figured it was a mistake or he was a new engineer using my computer for drawings. Well, tough crap for me, because the next minute I hear Erica and Dave walking to the front of the office where my desk was located. I had no idea Erica would be there, and she traumatized me so much that my body would physically react to her presence. Heart racing, sweating, anxiety, everything. They took me into the back in Dave's office and said something along the lines of, "You're fired." To put the icing on this steaming crap cake, Erica made up some convoluted excuse as to why they couldn't give me my money I was owed from working overtime the week before I left. I saved up my 2 weeks' pay, so it wasn't the end of the world, but boy did that last bit chap my butt to no end. I stewed for 2 more weeks while I finished up finals. I kept going over the various scenarios in my head where I was belittled, talked down to, disrespected, shamed for not being religious, and taken advantage of. These mother effers have to pay. So I started my beautiful waltz of revenge with the IRS. I texted Lily and told her to start looking for a job ASAP because crap was about to go down. She replied that she was already putting in notice as she got a gig at a hospital. Perfect. I began by filling out all the whistleblower paperwork and memorized all of his information, including his tax ID number, so that was a breeze. Off to the mail that went. My next stop was the Department of Labor. Same routine, filled out the forms, sent it off with a smile, all aboard the revenge train. Next stop, the labor union. I sent an anonymous letter detailing how he was avoiding paying benefits by hiring union guys under the table. But wait, there's more. I then proceeded to sign up Erica's government email address to every single marketing, porn, and spam site I could find. All of them. Then I contacted the insurance agency whose certificates he had me alter and told them not to work with him anymore because of what he was doing. I stopped myself from making copies of Erica's mortgage application and tossing them off a building because that could be traced back to me and it would be illegal. I'm glad I didn't do that, though, as the universe had plans for her. We'll get to that in a bit. I sat and waited for a few weeks, and slowly the responses from various agencies trickled in. Many violations were filed against him, and various liens were placed on every single asset he had. He no longer had insurance, so the major contractors would no longer work with him. In less than 6 months, the company went kaput. Yay! Let's pour a vodka martini to that. Fast forward 6 years. I'm sitting in my apartment enjoying some fine wine when I get an email on my super old AOL account that I haven't used in years. It's from Erica, but her personal email address, and I see it's a mass email to everyone in her contacts list. It read something like this. Please help. I'm stuck in Italy and have been robbed of everything, including my money and passport. If anyone here could help me, I would really appreciate it. I'm stranded here with nothing and don't know what to do. Cue my hysterical laughter for probably 10 whole minutes. And yes, I did reply back to her email. My reply was short and simple. LOL, is this real? LOL. And that's the story about how you shouldn't take advantage of young employees. Hey guys, thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one.